Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I want to thank everyone for coming out on a pretty nasty night. Hopefully, nobody will get blown away on the way home. First order of business are the minutes from March 6th. Did anybody have any amendments or edits?
Nope.
Yes, I received an amendment from Commissioner Bert O'Donnell.
Okay. So I move to accept the meeting minutes from March 6th as edited. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I am abstaining as I was not at that meeting. Okay, our first business item is 480 Ferry Street. And you're Mr.?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
You want me to go there?
Yep, that would probably be the best.
So, how would we like to, so we should probably start with the history here. I bought the property, about 9 years ago. With the first week, I was greeted by Rod, the engineer of the town, about a pipe that is on our property that's a culvert, let's call it, 18-inch pipe that drains Ferry Street onto my property. Didn't know anything about it when I bought the property, so did a little research and we found out that there is a pipe there. It was probably put in when the railroad bed went in the 50s, maybe. But since then, it's never been maintained by the town. And that's a whole different can of worms. The town approached me to buy an easement for $35,000 so they could dump water on my property. I completely said, I don't have anything to do with this right now. I have to study it and figure out what's going on. So over the years, we had trees dying within the first couple of years I bought the property. So I cut them down. I had little kids. I just didn't want them falling, and my kids played in there. Next thing, the two previous Conservation Commission ended up putting a cease and desist on me, put a tag on my deed, went in front of, followed his rules. We hired an outside environmentalist, Ivis, out of Weymouth, Mass. He found that things were dying there. The water is filled with salt, obviously, because of all the road runoff and whatever chemicals that are coming down the hill from Silver Hills ends up on my property. So stuff's dying. So from then on, he told us if something dies, chop it up, spread it around. Went in front of the board. The previous Conservation Commission was told he has 1 year to straighten out this mess. Never did anything. So this past spring has been really bad with water, where it actually flooded my driveway last week. And it has to be solved because this proposal of a development behind my house that abuts my property by 5 feet, that's going to bring me more water. And the reality is it's got to stop. You know, the water's got to stop. There's no plan to have it stopped. Originally, Rod came to me with a set of plans with this easement that he'd put a gate valve where directly across the street, and I'll show you on the map, there's Matuxik Woods that the town owns. That came with 2 dry wells. I don't know if anyone's familiar about it, but the water could easily be moved over there and retained. The problem with the past Conservation Commission is they didn't want to starve the wetlands. Wetland has been decertified by the state, but the previous conservations twice before said it is a wetlands, but it actually doesn't define the definition of a wetland for the state of Massachusetts. But I believe somewhere in the 90s, you guys, as the town of Massachusetts, sued the state to have more restriction over wetlands. Okay, so really is, I'd have to sue the town 3 times before it actually would be seen by the state. I've talked to the state numerous times about it. They insist that this is not a wetlands because it doesn't have a natural inlet and outlet, and it's a road runoff. And I'm going to show you, there's many cases that the town ended up paying a substantial amount of money to the homeowners because of this exact same situation we have going on. But the best way is to show you with the phone course here.
Before we go any further, let me just
Yep.
say a couple of things.
And
We-
I'm sure, I just heard you learning about stormwater runoff there.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not here to address stormwater runoff. This
Well,
commission,
this is,
excuse me.
Okay.
We are going to stick to what is jurisdictional to the Conservation
Okay.
Commission.
all right, so
I
so
know,
I'll
I've
connect
gone
it all for
all
you.
the way back through the history. I've
Yep.
gone back to 1975. I know there's a lot going on here.
Yep.
But I believe the immediate problem you have with conservation is that you need to close an order of conditions,
That's.
which
started
may or may
because of-
not have ever been recorded.
I don't know. That-
It was recorded.
It was recorded,
It was
okay.
Yeah, I
issued
would-
in 2014 and then recorded in 2017.
Okay,
So during the 2014 hearings, it was not
okay.
listed as being
So
recorded.
that.
We're not going to
should-
talk at all about the potential development behind you.
I don't care about that.
That
That's
is,
not what
okay.
I'm talking about.
That's- We haven't seen that. That's in planning
Right.
stages. Boom.
So we're talking about the existing problem that's been there since 1950-something, right? That has never been addressed by the town. Now, ultimately, because of this pipes here, you are destroying my front property. And I'm gonna say you because it is the town's water. It is not my water, and that is, there's so many laws in the town that talk about displacing water on someone else's property, but it's actually physically the town doing this here. This isn't a neighbor or anyone like that. This is the town we live with, we pay taxes on. So, let's talk about it. So, just so you're aware of what the situation is, I know he's been out there. This is the property, and this is a current Google, the most current Google. You can see the depth. That depth is literally in direct line of the pipe, okay? So, here's my property. There is not one street train from Clay Pit Road that exists on that road. So whatever engineering system here is, 100% of that water from this main hill, which is a very large hill, ends up down to the street. If this pipe didn't exist, this whole corner would flood. It would be a death trap for people to drive. So their answer is to put a pipe that actually ends up on my property to drain the water in the entire parish. Okay? So what that brings is literally this situation. This is what my property looks like as of Friday. Completely covered in water. So here's your pipe. You can see the bricks, these bricks falling, never been maintained. Massachusetts law says you must maintain and show record. You don't have to, town doesn't have record. They don't maintain. This is your inlet into my property, which this exists right on the edge of my property. This is the town side of the bridle path, which is probably put in by the railroad. But this is the end result. The water, I become a giant storage containment for the town. But here's what happens. And I would say 80% of my trees are completely rotted. And eventually they're gonna fall. And it's not a natural occurrence. I mean, you got your salinity level of 3, you have oils, you have everything on the roads ending up on my property.
Do you have
destroying my
testing
trees.
on that water?
What's that?
Have you done testing on that water? Do you have evidence of
Ivis had
that?
the testing, and he did submit it, and it was, the salinity levels are out of control. And it'll vary because of what's going on with road conditions. Like, we didn't get a lot of salt this year, so we won't get a lot of salt. But the soils are filled with salt. So, here's what the end path is. Supreme Court, there's many rules. I mean, I can give you lists and lists of rulings. There's one so close to us that's in Norway that they ended up settling for almost $1 million. Insane exact. I'm not looking for money. That's not my thing. I'm just looking for a real solution and not a board saying to do a solution and doing that. Because we've already had that once. And that it's really not fair as a homeowner to put up with this. And I don't have solutions, but I think the town has solutions. They have a dry well directly across the street that they own, that they can put their own water on. I just don't want any more water. And the conservation side of it is, whatever happens uphill is gonna end up on me, no matter what it is. Development, future development, hill development. Ferry Street, I don't want their water, no offense. And that's not fair for me to burden the water in the plants and the animals and whatever lives there. You know, my trees are dying. I cut down trees because of safety issues. Next thing, I get a cease and desist. I follow the cease and desist. I still have a tick on my deed that was never removed because we followed it to the T. The undergrowth is coming back, but anything that grows substantial is going to die until that water level is brought down or
Well,
under control.
Here's what I'm going to say, and I want to hear from everybody here. This has been mapped as a wetland since the early 70s. You knew when you bought the property that there was wetland there. I don't know,
I can deal with I can deal with the
DPW has
wetland.
this mapped and has for a very long time. There are also, apparently, hydric soils in this wetland. Hydric soils mean it's a wetland and it has been for a long time. They don't form in a 20-year period.
I don't think I'm arguing the wetland.
Okay.
That is not, it's the water. It's
Well,
the mass of water.
this commission has no jurisdiction over DPW stormwater systems, okay?
Okay.
I'm sympathetic to you, but we can't do anything about that. What we can do is give you a certificate of compliance to close out the enforcement order, which will take that off your deed. But to do that, we need you to place the conservation markers that were
Well,
on.
they were there, they washed away.
Well, they need to be replaced.
I believe there's some still there. The little round ones?
They should be posts this high out of the
yeah, with the
ground
circle.
with decals on
Yeah,
top.
they were there, they probably washed away.
Well,
I
we
think
want-
it's hard stake too.
I'm sorry?
It's hard stake too.
Well, we need those markers replaced.
Yeah, not a problem.
Particularly along the edge of your drive, your property, on that end of
They
the
definitely
wetland.
float away though, that's the problem. We'll come up with a better solution with a bigger
Supposed to be
stake.
3 feet in.
They go
so-
3 feet into the ground.
The last conservation, they were just circles they gave me.
Okay, no, you need to put those on 4-foot posts that go 3 feet into the ground.
We don't have a problem
They
with
don't
that.
float away.
I'm not arguing that it is the lowest part of Ferry Street, so it's
Yes.
gonna be wet. My question is what's the definition of your wetland? Is it
It's a
vernal
bordering,
pool?
it's a bordering vegetated wetland per DEP.
I would
Right.
also,
But there's a lot more definition to
it's
that.
definitely covered under isolated land subject to flooding because it holds.
Yes, it is. I agree to that.
So that's protected by the Wetland Protection Act. So
But it-
beyond the wetland, whether it's a bordering, isolated, because it is an isolated pocket.
Yeah, I didn't
The
bring-
question was the vernal pool, whether or not it was a vernal pool
Yeah.
or not. And it was certified and
And then
then
decertified.
Then it's decertified, yeah.
If it had been a vernal pool, they never even would have been able to get the driveway in
Correct.
to
Right.
build those houses.
But it is still protected, just,
Oh, absolutely, yeah, it's,
So,
Chair Hannon.
as far as the.
excuse me 1 minute, I want to hear what.
And if I may, the vernal pool was also, the decertification was contested by former agent Jay Wennemer. He did observe water in the vernal pool, the potential vernal pool, for over 60 days, which was originally the DEP's declassification, claiming that it did not hold water for over 60 days.
And it all depends on the rain cycles, because it's being fed by the street. So, back to the pipe, we'll call it. And I know not jurisdiction, but that pipe is literally destroying, if you want to call it a wetland, it's destroying. So, something has to be done. You know, is it a combination of both committees? Probably. Or not. I mean, what are we going to do? Are you going to let it just get destroyed? And you understand, this thing's floating there, everything. It's not a covered culvert. It's an 18-inch pipe. So anything on the street is coming to my property. And in the hill before, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of houses.
So that culvert, the end
Yep.
of that structure, is on town property.
Which side?
Your side, I believe. Is that accurate? Both sides.
Okay.
That's on town property.
But the town bylaws, you're not allowed to discharge water on someone else's property, correct?
That's not our jurisdiction. I can't
Okay, so
address that.
if poison's coming
This
through that
commission
pipe,
can't address
whose
that.
responsibility is it?
I-
That's a great, you have
Yeah.
pesticides, you have everything that someone puts on the law and ends up my property. But that would fall under your board, under my vision. I mean, my attorneys too, but I would say, 100% on you.
I
I'm holding
disagree.
the town liable for what they're putting in my property,
There-
which
there-
is ruining the
there's
conservation.
stormwater constructions all over town, similar to
Doesn't make it
yours.
right, though.
It doesn't, but it also
Right.
doesn't mean that it's illegal.
It's not illegal to dump water on someone else's property? It absolutely is. And in your bylaws, it is. It's written clearly. But what doesn't make, if I was a neighbor and had a pump pumping out of my house and ends up in your property, I'm liable. What's the difference between that and the town? Nothing. It really isn't. So ultimately, we're killing a wetlands. I agree it is a wetlands from all this stuff that comes off the street. Salt is your number one issue here. You know, this summer's gonna be great, winter's gonna be great. Next could have a terrible storm, we're gonna have tons of salt in my property. That is gonna kill the plants that are in that property. We don't have salt, they're pines, or whatever, swamp maples. You'll know exactly what they are, I'm not a biologist, but I was told by my report, nothing can live there. The amount of salt that's in that property. It's challenging, don't get me wrong, you have them all over the town. This is a nasty one, because if that pipe's blocked, that street completely floods.
Well, flooding is the new normal all over town, all over the East
The
Coast,
Ferry
all over
Street
the
wouldn't be
country.
passable, wouldn't be passable.
And
Well,
there was
unfortunately.
there was periods of time, I've lived there many
Yeah.
years. There's periods of time it was like that.
Yeah.
And the only thing they did is they ditched out to that culvert. You can see now.
I know,
there's-
so I get the water, I win. That's what you're saying, so
The area that always got the water continues to get the water.
what, that would never get water, because it'd have to climb 12 feet in the air. Just telling you that, because that's how high it is, 12 feet with
Well,
that rail bed.
that's all a constructed rail bed.
Yeah,
you know,
70
so-
year ago.
More than
You
that.
see what I mean? I mean,
I
I
understand
only
what
owned the
you're
property
saying,
for
but-
12 years. So I inherit the problem, but it's a challenging problem, don't get me wrong. Why do I have the right to take your water? That's ultimately, and it's killing my front yard, literally. Trees are dying, everyone can come take a walk if you want, everything's
Well,
dying.
that area of your property was always going to be a wetland, period. Whether you think the trees are being killed by salinity or not.
I guarantee
That was
you,
never
if
gonna be
you
a
get
front
rid
lawn.
of that pipe, it's gonna be 90% drier.
You don't
will
want it to
puddle.
be 90% drier. It's a wetland.
But I own it. It's mine. I want it drier. I don't want the town's water to be on my property.
We have
Period.
jurisdiction over wetlands. That's a wetland. We cannot permit it to be choked off.
Why?
Now, because,
It's not natural.
yes,
But
it is.
I legally cannot
Yes, it
permit
is.
you to put water on my property because it's illegal.
I'm not putting water on your property.
You absolutely
That
are.
beef is with the DPW.
Okay, so this board and the DPW needs to get together to come up with a solution.
The DPW needs to come up with a solution, at which point that solution needs to come to this board
Right.
to be permitted. Okay, we're not engineering stormwater management here. DPW needs
So you're
to,
okay with all the pesticides, all the trash coming into my property?
Of
and
course we're
destroying-
not,
And
but-
destroying my property? It doesn't make sense.
of course we're not, but we have no control over what's going on with that culvert.
But you are Marshfield and they're Marshfield. So I'm just a
No.
resident. I'm trying to make it simple.
Their
I could say
DPW,
that to the town. I don't care. I write a check to the town for my property taxes. I'm here with the town protecting my front yard at a conservation situation, and you're saying I don't have to get involved with it because it's DPW, but that's not how the things work in the world. You have to work together to come up with a solution.
well, here's my solution for you tonight. You agree to replace those conservation markers.
problem.
We issue a certificate of compliance that will remove the lien on your property that was put on by the enforcement order in 2014.
Which was addressed immediately, and the board told them to straighten it out, and they never did.
Well, now,
And that's on record.
I will say the request for certificate of compliance has to be filed as well. So after those conservation markers are in place, if you could file a
We
request
did
for
this. This
certificate.
is already done.
Well, we're gonna do it again.
I don't know if he has the paperwork, but this was, I'll do it again. I have no problem, but again,
because
this
first
is
of all,
now-
we need those markers, and they need to be 3 feet in the ground, 1 foot over
At
the
the time,
ground, and we'll
everything
give
was
you the
done
decals.
in coordinates, and we hired an outside. It cost me $6,000. Again, because trees are dying on my property, because of water that doesn't belong to me. You know, and I don't know, I understand the conservation part, but you also gotta understand it's causing damage. And you're here to protect that, correct?
We're here to protect wetlands.
You don't think that wetland's dying?
I don't know. I'm not a wetland scientist.
Well, you
I
have-
see a wetland that has been identified for more than 50 years.
But it's in trouble.
With hydric soils, possibly a vernal pool. Is it in trouble? I don't know.
Well, you were out there. What does it look like?
Trees
Doesn't look
die. I
good.
mean,
That
it
whole
looked
area
okay.
is dying.
I've been there. I don't see a major die-off. I see somewhat.
I did notice that the area was vegetated with native greenbrier.
Yes, there's a lot
So
of.
while a lot of
And
trees.
we're
in
going to
the
let
area-
you claim that that has naturally revegetated, because it has. We're not going to require you to do any other plantings.
Right. I understand
Okay?
that.
Which was originally part of the enforcement order.
No,
But
it-
because it's been so long, it has naturally revegetated.
Yeah.
So,
So so we'll go through stage one, we'll get the signs back up, which is,
Yep.
we've done this, trust me, I've done it, and I spent a lot of money to
Okay.
get it to where it was.
okay, so you need conservation markers.
What's the future plan here? Because this is not gonna go away, it's only gonna get worse.
Here's all that I can say to you. Put your conservation markers back in. File for a certificate of compliance, which we will then issue you. You record that at the Registry of Deeds, and your property is free and clear. In the meantime, you speak to the DPW or the town administrator or whomever you deem appropriate to try to assess how to manage that stormwater better. And then if they come up with an engineered plan,
Which they have,
it will come back to us for permitting.
they have, and you denied it. Just saying, this has all been done, this is like a cycle. Rod has a plan, I don't know if you've seen
The
it yet.
DPW road improvement projects for Ferry Street was withdrawn without prejudice. And that was in, sorry, 1 second, that was in 2011. And then the enforcement order issued on this property was in 2014. So it happened before.
So I'm gonna tell you what happened.
I'll just
why
say
was-
one final thing on
Yeah.
this, is the way it was explained to us, is that they came to you with a proposal that would limit the amount of water going onto your property, and you didn't want to agree to the easement, so.
And what else
that's
did they
when-
say?
That's when it never.
They wanted to buy an easement for $35,000 so they could do whatever they wanted to do on my property.
Well, then that's.
Quote unquote. I
Well,
mean,
there was
it
your
was,
out.
it was a
You had an
hinge deal,
opportunity.
which is kinda,
You denied.
Shady.
You
I gotta
chose
be
not
honest
to
with you.
take that.
I bought the property for X number of dollars. This is America. You buy your property, conservation, yes. For DPW to strong arm me into buying an easement so they can dump water on the property so I can't complain anymore or sue them is ridiculous.
Well, it seems to me you and DPW are at loggerheads.
You
And-
would be too if you're getting millions of gallons of water on your front property. And I'm sure everyone who's watching is gonna say the same thing. And so, I see how it is. It is what it is.
Did you have a comment, John?
No, I think.
I was looking for guidance. I mean, I understand conservation,
Yeah.
and I understand this thing's in trouble. Things are dying, and we do have some briars going like crazy. But all the big trees, the oaks, they're all tree rotted because it's too much water. All the trunks are rotted, and they're all just gonna fall.
All I can, I'll say it one more time.
Yeah,
All I can
fine.
tell you to do is
Yeah,
conservation posts, COC, get back with DPW and try to renegotiate something, which then they can bring to us to permit or,
Okay, well, that's a different, I think they have to come to me to renegotiate because they're putting water on my property, which is hurting your wetlands. But
except
that's
they're not
okay.
gonna go to you to renegotiate.
You
You're
gotta
gonna
get-
have
I hear
to
you.
initiate
You got to
that.
get together, whoever, you got the problem you want to solve, so, and I think, Craig has made it pretty clear, there's only certain things we have jurisdiction over.
And stormwater
fix-
management's not jurisdiction, you guys don't have jurisdiction over it.
Apparently not.
No,
And I know that's up there in Massachusetts law, they're
if
having
they were
debates.
permitting a new subdivision and it came to conservation, we would certainly review stormwater management. But on individual properties, stormwater management is not
Which
jurisdictional
would go to
to
the
us.
subject that we're not talking about. We have one 5 feet from my property, and it's gonna bring me more water, ultimately, because I'm downhill.
Yeah.
You know
we're
what I
at the
mean?
bottom
So,
of a big
so
hill.
there's,
Well,
so there's something that we, have to talk
One more
about it.
thing, you're a little bit misinformed about the drainage on the rest of Ferry Street between Clay Pit Road and your
Okay.
house. There are stormwater basins along there. There was a new stormwater basin partially completed on what's now town conservation
Yep,
land.
that divides my
up
property,
behind you. So there is
But it's,
stormwater
I
in
believe it's
that area.
partially completed. I think you nailed it. It literally, you could walk the street, you won't find a grid. Pretty much 3/4 of the way there.
And again, it's out of our domain right now, but I believe you will find that will be addressed.
No, I know,
during
it's
for
part of
that
the plans, yeah.
subdivision.
But it has started, the stormwater management has started, but it stopped. You know, and hopefully that will help my situation ultimately. And ultimately the wetlands situation. But I do think that the water is destroying the wetlands, and it's not. Evidence shows, you know. And if it was clean water, maybe it was good. If we had swamp maples that actually could live in it, that's fine, but we don't. We have pines and things that don't like water, unfortunately.
I understand, and, you know, I'm not trying to be contentious.
No,
or-
I'm not
or
either. I'm
stubborn. I'm just telling you what we can and can't do at this stage.
Right. But you can protect a wetland, correct? Isn't that what you're here for?
We are here to protect resource areas.
Okay. If
But-
this is dying, that's on your obligation too.
Well, yeah, we would need evidence that it's actually dying.
Come on board. You're more than welcome to look at the trees and you let me know if it's natural or we have trouble here.
The other part of this is your close proximity to the Ferry Street wells.
Absolutely.
I don't think the water on that road is that badly contaminated. And that's just my theory, or my,
No, I don't think we have a lot of fancy houses that are dumping a lot of nitrates on it, that's for sure. But I can pretty promise you, dump it on and anywhere over that hill, it's coming to my property. It has to, because that's where it's the only place it can go, right? Until the system's finished or whatever their plans are. But it's kind of sad that you literally have dry wells to capture a lot of that water. But that's DPW and all that. But ultimately, it's really you guys, because their lack of money to do it or whatever they're doing is killing the wetlands. And there's a major wetlands across the street from me too that's getting a lot of that water too. And eventually it gets into that's our wells, right? Our wells are right underneath there.
yeah.
So we don't need those pesticides in there. Okay.
Well,
Well, we'll get stage one.
let's
and then we'll
go,
do that.
yep, baby steps. Let's get you, let's get your deed.
Yep,
Get-
absolutely.
Markers in,
And I have to say, I did do this 5 years ago. It just never got followed through.
okay.
And
So,
that-
I mean,
for
that
whatever
happens,
reasons,
that
it
happens a
never-
lot.
No,
That
I get
happens
it.
a lot.
It was
It's-
probably my fault. I didn't push it.
Things slip through the cracks and, you know, so let's get that portion of it cleared up.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll,
Yeah, and I invite everybody out to take a look at it. You know,
I've
like
been there.
opinions. You
I've
know,
looked at it, yep.
yeah. We met on site and
Bert's seen it, I know, and
in stormwater, you guys don't have jurisdiction at all, huh?
not on individual, single-family residences.
Yep.
In fact, I believe they are specifically exempt from our review in the permitting process.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We have enough on our plate with wetland regulations without having to learn stormwater.
I hear you, but it's a big part of the whole thing right now.
Well, it is.
Like you said, you're going to get more water. It's just how it's
Yeah,
going to be
it's
right
coming.
now. It's a
It's
lot
coming.
warmer these days, and you're getting the water, and it's going to cause a lot more damage.
It is. And that's why the state is working very hard
And
on.
that's probably why it's drastically going downhill quickly, because we're getting more water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
It all equals. And it's only going to get worse. All right, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Open invitation to go by the property anytime you want.
Thank
Or
you.
Anyone who wants to check it out, they're more than welcome to. We have to work together as a solution. It's not,
I
it's not a
agree.
one-all, and be honest with you, I think conservation swings a big stick because they're protecting the wetland. If they truly want to, you know, that's the goal. And, you know, you're not gonna move the pipe, but DPW is, but we all are one town.
Mm-hmm.
We're not We're not two different departments that don't talk to each other. It's not the lookout.
Actually,
Well, if, that's sad if it is, so. yeah.
sometimes.
All right.
Yeah, no, we'll handle our end of it here.
Yep, and I'll take care of the side with the sticks and stuff, and I can get some from your office, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely, and we'll give you the decals. And I would urge you to once again talk to Rod Procaccino and reopen a discussion about possible.
I think it should be a collaborative.
Engineering.
I think conservation, us three should sit in a room and come up with a solution.
I would sit down with you. Mike would sit down with.
Yeah, just because it makes sense, instead of going circles all the time and nothing gets done.
Sure.
Because we have a potential new situation that's gonna make it bigger. We're not gonna talk about it, but it truly is.
Yes. Yeah.
It truly could make my situation much worse.
I hope not.
I don't want to put a bridge in. All right, thank you for your time.
Okay. So
Thank you.
we'll.
All right, I'll buy and grab it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay. 55 Maycomer's Ridge, we have a hazard tree removal. They are outside of land subject to coastal storm flowage, but it's a buffer zone to salt marsh and the 100-foot riverfront area. But it's right on top of the home and in pre-disturbed lawns. So unless anyone has any objections, I would move that we allow this as a de minimis activity. Anyone have a problem? Okay, I move that this is a de minimis activity. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have one continuation this evening. It's SE 42 2973A, Trounce Island, has asked to continue to 4/17, April 17. So I move that we continue this to the 17th. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next up is Beach Street. This is a new hearing. I will read the legal ad. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024, to consider the notice of intent filed by 96 Beach Street Realty Trust. And the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. Mike, can you confirm taxes, abutters, and the EP number?
Yes, taxes, fees, abutters, and the DEP number of SE 423079 have been issued.
Thank you. I see Mr. Savant.
Yes, good evening, everybody. So yes, 96 Beach Street. I don't know if you had a chance to go out and look at it, but existing cottage that's there. The homeowners would like to elevate the home onto a new foundation. We're in a flood zone, of course. We're in an AE10 down there. And they're proposing to elevate it on a new concrete foundation with proper flood vents. They're proposing 8 at this time. They're also lifting the home. They're also going to move it horizontally on the lot also, about 5 feet, 4.8 feet actually. They want to slide it over slightly so they can create a little bit more side yard for a proposed garage. So a small addition onto the existing home. Certainly does increase the impervious coverage by 404 square feet by doing that. But currently the house has no flood venting or throughways in it at all. It is a concrete foundation, but it will have some flow-through smart venting on it, so it will help some with stormwater flowage. But essentially that's what they're hoping to do, elevate the house, get it up off the ground. It's going to be about, the existing grade there now is 7.5. They're proposing the finished floor at elevation 13. So it is going to be lifted quite a bit off the ground. There won't be any parking or anything. It's just going to be an enclosure below. We're working with Andrew at the building department. We will be certainly going forward on what the space can be underneath. Certainly can't be any basement or anything like that. It'll probably be a crushed stone floor with just storage of yard, tools and whatnot. But that's essentially what we're hoping to do. Elevate the home and make it flood compliant. I'll do my best to answer any questions you might have on it.
Thank you. Comments, Mike?
Yes. This is the proposal of elevating existing single-family home with a compliant foundation, 7 flood vents, as Rick mentioned. The impervious coverage is proposed to increase by 404 square feet, in addition to the existing parking area on Marion Street as it currently exists. A garage impervious paver drive are proposed with frontage on Beach Street. And no previous conservation permitting has been issued for this property.
Where are we on a floodplain permit?
It's been filed. I don't believe it's been completed, but I saw some comments there from Andrew on there about just obtaining all the other requisite permits for the project, but I haven't had any action items that I've seen. But it's in process, Bert.
Okay. We didn't get any comments from Andrew, did we?
He said he wouldn't comment until the floodplain permit was filed.
It was filed. It's been filed.
It's
That
been
was-
filed.
Yeah, it's been.
This was a day or so ago, perhaps he didn't, maybe it hasn't been
Maybe it's not
reviewed.
completed, it's in process. I know, I checked it, I knew it, but I always check them before I come. It's definitely in there, and there are comments from the building department about it, so.
Yeah, he just says no
It's not
comment
finished.
until a floodplain permit is applied for.
Okay, well, anything we decide would be,
Yeah,
require all other permits anyway.
right.
As far as elevations, it's a pretty flat lot, but there's nothing on the plan is there anything there that shows that?
What, the grades?
Yeah.
There's a lot of spot grades.
Oh,
It's so
okay. I
flat,
got you.
there's no contouring on the property. It would be, a slight contour clip in one of the corners of the lots, but it's very flat. The 8 contours out on the street, and they're all, you see those shots at the existing building corners. I tried to place them around the extent of the lot, but it's right around 7.5 feet is pretty flat, right around there. They're not proposing any filling or lifting of the ground surface at all, just lifting it up in the air. They've seen flooding. I mean, they got some flooding earlier this spring in one of those storms,
Yeah.
right at the property, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry, looking at the actual plan, it's clear. I looked at it electronically before, I didn't really see it, but you got them all over the place. And any drives are all pervious?
Yep, they're not proposing to modify anything with the gravel drive off of Marion, and with the new garage, I talked to them about a pervious drive leading out to Beach Street in the front there. And that's really all that's proposed is, they hadn't decided on a surface, but I stressed that it needs to be crushed stone, shells, pervious pavers, anything but pavement, concrete.
Okay, questions, comments from other commissioners?
I have a question. Are we permitting the house to be elevated and the garage, or is the garage going to be filed at some other time?
No, the garage the structure is, as shown on the plan, is all being proposed. We will have to go to the zoning board of appeals, certainly, to get approval for that. But yes, the existing house and the proposed addition shown.
So the garage would be at grade?
The garage would be at grade. It's attached to the home, but I believe there's some architecturals that were submitted, but yes, the garage will be at grade. There'll be some steps from the garage up into the house. There's a little stairway going up because of the height of it. But yes, it's an attached garage and it will be at grade with flood vending.
With, okay.
Yes.
Did you have one, Jesse?
No, I did not.
Anybody else, any questions? In that case, I'd like to open it up. Anybody in the public, either on Zoom or nobody else in the room? In that case, I'd like to close the hearing and issue special conditions. Anything other than standard, Mike?
The standard special conditions would apply, and then an elevation cert, essentially, after construction condition 1, during construction 11, and prior to construction conditions 5 and 2.
And if anything changes with the floodplain permitting, just have to come back.
Sure.
It sounds like it's all straightforward.
Okay.
Guess I'd like to make a motion to issue special conditions. Do I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you, Rick.
Excellent.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have another new hearing. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Amy Lowe for 43 Bancroft Street, and the hearing officer is Commissioner Platt.
Thank you. All right, Mike, can you confirm that taxes and fees have been met?
Yes, taxes and fees have been met.
All right, this work is located within the land subject to coastal storm flowage and in the buffer zone to a salt marsh, and also in special flood hazard area AE 11. Is there someone here to present this?
You can take care of that.
Sure.
The applicant is proposing to fill in an existing in-ground pool with compatible material. I observed the fence and pool cover are in poor condition and could pose a safety hazard as well. The existing pool is an in-ground gunite pool with a paved pool area surrounding it. The home is located within land subject to storm flowage and within the 75 to 100 foot buffer zone to salt marsh. Fill should be clean, compatible, and compacted. No prior conservation permitting has been issued for this site.
Okay, thank you. So I did notice that there was I think in the RDA that they said they were going to be removing the concrete. Do we know that they definitely are going to be removing the outer area around the pool as well?
Liz, I know you're on, do you know that? I know you worked with the applicant on this one.
Yep, she's removing the concrete
Perfect.
Okay, great.
as well.
Okay. Let's see if I have any other comments from my end. Mike, do you have any comments or conditions that you wanted to call out?
Yeah, I would suggest the following special conditions on the cover letter. Ensure best management practices and building codes are followed. Before commencing the work, obtain all pertinent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits. See Conservation Administrator for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities. And fill must be clean, compatible, and compacted.
Okay. Is there any commissioners that have any comments? Nope. Anyone on Zoom have any comments or questions, concerns? Okay. All right, this seems pretty straightforward. I'm going to move to vote to close the hearing, to issue the determination of applicability with conditions outlined by Mike. Mike, was there any determination, positive,
Yes, it would. I would suggest positive 5, negative 2.
-2? Okay. All right. Can I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, that concludes our hearings. We have some certificate of compliance requests. SE 42 1844 at 11 Jackson Street. This project has passed all final inspections, and therefore, I move to issue a COC for this project. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. SE 422410, 695 Summer Street. Once again, this has been completed in accordance with the site plans, so I move to issue a certificate of compliance. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. SE 422869, 104 Hartford Road. This has been completed in accordance with site plans. I move to recommend a COC being issued for this property. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 162 Bay Ave, I'm going to table. There is still an issue there with a floodplain elevation. SE 422923. I think we're still stuck on this one too, aren't we, Mike?
Yes, I did 2923. I did speak with their engineer and indicated that the elevation certificate was missing some pertinent information, and also there was noted of an enclosure under the home that would need to be resolved as well.
Okay, so I move to table both SE 2923. Oh, these are, it's on here twice, sorry. SE 2923. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And do we have SE 2975 and 2975A? Yeah, we have.
If I may, my comments I previously just made were for this property, the 160 Bay Avenue property.
Okay.
But the 162 Bay Avenue property, the other Tedeschi property, their elevation certificate should be all set, but we are waiting for evidence of a different enclosure under the home to be resolved.
Okay, so we are tabling both 162 Bay Ave and 160
Correct.
Bay Ave. Okay. Did that get voted properly? Let's do that over. Can I have a second for tabling both 160 and 162 Bay Ave?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that concludes our business for this evening. I move to close the Marshfield Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.